week 6 of the series of how to build your law firm from scratch. If you'd never done it, or for most of you, this is how to go back through all of these intricate little places and fix a lot of the broken cracks that you have in your system. Today, on week 6, we are going to be diving into referrals with chiros, with anybody else, all the ins and outs of how do you deal with referrals, how do those play a part in the game, and more importantly, what are some tips and techniques on how to make sure those referral partnerships are not a waste of time and you're just out there spending time feeling good, but they actually return revenue to your bottom line. So some of the stuff we talk about today, you'll be able to literally input or implement today to make a change and start making more money. So that's where we're going, Shane. But how are you today, bro?
I'm doing well. And if you missed our episode on what to do with your list, right? We talk about lists. We're going to talk a little bit about it today. That was last week's episode as well. List management, sort of the basics of that. But today I'm doing great, Trevor. And I actually like, this topic. I think there's a lot of stuff out there, obviously there's other resources, but this is sort of the down and dirty, gritty, how to get started, how to put it in place, and nuts and bolts, right? Because I've read a bunch of stuff and it's like, just be sociable,
Right.
get to know people, know their personal details. Okay, all of that is true, but there's systems in place that need to be put to everything, right? And it's also a skill you can work on. But I think the systems are what takes somebody who doesn't love network or referral-based marketing and helps them succeed. Mm-hmm. And everybody can do the systems, right? Because we all know some people, and heck, I'm not an overly person who wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know what I want to do? I want to go meet 16 people and shake hands, and I'm going to bond with all of them, and they're going to love me, and I'm going to be the life of the party 24/7. That's not me, right? So...
Yeah. Well, dude, some of the people listening are probably exactly where you're at, and they're like the opposite of that. They're like, really? You want me to go just introduce myself to strangers? I remember back in the day, someone was teaching me about referrals, and just right when I was just starting out as a business owner, and I'm like, okay, well, how do I get to know people, networking, all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, and they're like, well, there's a Chamber of Commerce, and what I realized is the person who's telling me to go to the Chamber had never actually gone to the Chamber of Commerce and done anything there, but they were like, well, that's where you can meet business owners, and it'll be blah, blah, all this great stuff, and I remember showing up, and I went for to the monthly meeting for 6 months, but I was so nervous that I wouldn't go talk to anybody.
Okay.
So I would show up, and I'm this guy just sitting over there, and it was interesting. I then created a mindset in my head that the referral-based partner thing was a sham. I literally created this narrative that that doesn't work. It's not effective. It doesn't, that's only for the other guy, somebody else. And it's just clear I didn't have any guidance. I didn't know what I was actually doing there. And so for me, and I'm sure there's some people listening who have found that to be true for them. And it's only because they just they don't have a plan or a way to go about it. But that was my first experience with referrals was that they're really hard and they're uncomfortable and I didn't like them.
Well, and people talk about go to the chamber to get business, right? And, go to any of these, go to bar meetings, go to any of these conferences to get business and leads. But I think an error I made early in the day was I was thinking when I went to that meeting, that's where the business was going to come from, right? In those 3 minutes, I was going to make such an awesome impression on them that they were going to want to send business my way with no real ability to connect, right? And what I didn't realize is the whole point of the chamber or the bar meeting or the conference was really to get a lead to go to lunch or breakfast or another meeting with them. And that was a huge shift for me once I sort of figured that out, which it sounds stupid, right, to say that I had to figure that out, but I did. Mm-hmm. And a guy showed it to me because he I don't want to say tricked me into it, but that's what he did, right? We met, and then it was this thing, and we went to lunch, and suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, here's how this system works, right? Because he had some follow-up stuff too. So
well, and it's all about developing a relationship, and I've always related this to dating. Right, because every one of us has dated at some point, right? You don't just go up to girl that you met at the bar, and you're like, "Hey, let's get married." That could be like a great candidate for you to get married after you dated for a while and they got to know you and you got to know them. But you'd ruin it all if you walked right up and said, "Hey, let's get married and go back to my house and get it on." Like it's just not. It's clearly not going to work. That's a silly example, but it's how we try to do it in the referral game. I've had lots of people do this with me. I don't have much of a relationship with them at all. And then they come in and they're like throwing me business cards and asking me for leads and asking me for business. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't even know you from anyone else. Yeah, you might be a nice guy. And if I got to know you, we could maybe be quote unquote friends and we could create a business relationship. So I think that we have to emphasize that part of it, realizing with referral partners, these aren't just magical unicorns sitting on the side where you just have to find the right one. Most people you come in contact with inside the business space, if obviously the businesses make sense, they can be potential referral partners, but you've got to play the game, right? Just like in the dating game.
You got to play it, and I mean, they want to know what's in it for them too, right? What do they get out of it? And everybody's, like in our space, I think like in the personal injury space, a lot of people think it's just, well, you can send me clients or I can send you clients, right? That's on its face, that's something, but also you can do other things. I had great relationships with some chiropractors who, honestly, I didn't have a lot of business in their area, but they used me a lot because of, other things I could bring to the table. They were like, dude, you get my settlement super fast. Right. You don't hassle my team. You are great to my clients. They all come back and they say they love you. I'm at the time in the beginning, my fees were a little bit cheaper too. So they were like, oh, they love you, dude. Your fees are cheaper and you do a great job. Awesome. Well, my fees could be cheaper because I wouldn't having to pay, for advertising on those cases. So I was like, they still worked out to me. So, working on that, there's are intangibles you can bring in to the table. But, in our space, I mean, let's be honest, most people, are looking for money or clients or some kind of relationship back and forth where everybody feels like sort of like a partner. Or they're in the whole situation.
Well, as you think about the name, it's a referral partner. You're not a referral whore, which is literally what it becomes the other way, right? And I think it's kind of the first step in the conversation, which is when you're looking to create referral partners, what do you bring to the table? Don't ask yourself, what can they do for me? Right? If you're meeting a chiro for the very first time, it's literally coming down to, if you can ask yourself that question and be like, what can I do for this person? Like, how can I add value to their world with the intention that, I would like maybe, I would like them to send me some business, but what would I be willing to do to create this relationship with no strings attached? Right? What am I going to do to develop this? Because that's genuine. If you have an agenda coming in and people can tell and people read it, you're automatically put off. People are automatically just like, dude, who is this? You kind of feel like a little sleazy a little bit. And they're just like, dude, you just want something from me because I've established business over here and you want some of it. I'm willing to give it to you, but there's got to be, the energy has to be there. And I think an easy way to shift your own energy if you're so worried about, getting things from other people is realizing, okay, what can I actually do for you? So when you're meeting these people, being like, okay, how can I help you? What value? And it could be as simple as what you just said, Shane, right? Your fees are cheaper. Yep. That's a great value because it hits the bottom line. So the clients are happier, your chiro's happier, whoever it is that's referring when you create that relationship. But I think having that defined, right? Yeah. Like knowing this is what value I have. This is why that would make sense for you to, even consider doing business or having business.
Well, that was like my intro when I first started my firm on the personal injury side. I needed business, right? I didn't have any business, and I was like, well, dude, I don't have $100,000 to put in advertising. Yeah. So what can I do? And it was like, you know what? I'll take second looks. And what I meant by that was, if you got a case where the lawyer dropped it because it was a tough case, send it my way. You got a case where the lawyer dropped it because there's a gap in treatment, send it my way. You got a low property damage case, send it my way. I'll do the grunt work. And I would tell people when I met them, like, hey, everybody knows these are not great cases, right? These are hard cases. But if your client knows, hey, I'm the second choice, I'm the second guy to look at it. Yep. You know that I'm just trying to get you some money, and I'm trying to get some money. If everybody knows, I'm cool. And honestly, those were pretty easy, right? Because by the time they got to me, they just wanted, everybody's looking to just, hey, can you make this work? You know?
Yeah, is there anything here? It's like, well, just get
Yeah.
something, do something. Like, yeah, fine, yeah. Which then, when you were able to do that because you're willing to pay the price and work hard, and all of a
Right.
sudden, this referral partner's like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Then you
And then
become
you
the
start to
go-to.
get good stuff, right? Then you start
Hmm.
to get good things, or they're like, dude, he cleaned up 5 messes for me. Let me send him a good case.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
What would you say, like, if you look back to when you were getting started all those many years ago, when you started out, man, what were some mistakes you made in the referral game? Like, what are some things, some pitfalls that somebody else might want to avoid?
I would say one of the things, and this is a huge issue I had in the beginning, was I would go to some of these networking events, and it would be an hour-long event, and I would look up and I'd talk to two people because I came into a conversation, and I was pushing the relationship, right? I was
Right.
trying to cement a relationship in that hour. In that hour, I was trying to get my business right then and there. So I would end up talking to one or two people, and honestly, when you do that, a lot of times, if you're not real careful, you forget to swap contact information anyway. So you burned 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Your energy is off too because you're trying to push the sale, or push the deal right away. So your energy is off, and you just end up talking about a bunch of stuff. But honestly, when you leave and there's no follow up, it ends. And I think that's the key, is the no follow up. That's probably the biggest issue I see, where people think, oh, we had a great lunch, we had a great meeting, and we swap business cards, it's just going to happen.
Right.
I mean, that's not how it happens. That doesn't work on dating either, right? You can't go on one date and never follow up and assume it's going to turn into a marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to ask, you got to stay in contact, you got to do those things. So that's one, the no follow up from our meeting, whether it's at the the chamber, or even a lunch. No follow up. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
I think the second issue is, let's say you're at that chamber and you get the lunch meeting, right? You do the 5-minute conversation, you chat, and then you don't feel desperate because you're sort of just swapping and saying, hey, let's do lunch sometime. It's a great ending. And they're like, yeah, sure, great. You get their card. It gives you a reason to follow up. But when you walk into that lunch, one, when you don't have a plan, so you don't know what you're looking for out of this. But two, when you don't do any research at all on the other guy
Yeah.
or gal. And I see that tons of times, where I'll go to lunch with a chiropractor and they're like, so, Shane, what part of town's your office at, or how big's your firm, right? It's all over the internet how big my firm is, right? If you don't know how big I am, I really don't want to go to lunch with you because you didn't even bother to Google me, right?
Yeah.
But also, conversely, when I don't know anything about them, I used to have my admin, before any lunch meeting I have, go to the website and just print out the About Me page, right, for the doctor or the lawyer. It's simple. It's easy. And then I would, as bad as it sounds, I had a folder, and it would say any business we had with each other on one side. And on the other side, it would be the About Me page. And if there was something crazy on their website, they would put that in there. But usually it's just the bio. Yeah. And I'd go, and I'd when I got to the restaurant 5 minutes early, I'd read the bio. And I'd try to identify one or two things that I could talk about that we could relate, and that was just mentioned on there. And you'd be surprised the number of times you walk in there and you mention, hey, I saw you went to Georgia. That's pretty cool. My brother-in-law went there. Or you went somewhere else, and they'd always be like, dude, how do you know this? This is so cool. And it was instant bonding. It wasn't stalkerish. It wasn't, or like if they say, like, I love hunting and fishing and reading books. You're going, oh, I saw you like to read. What's your favorite book? Easy stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, those are the low-hanging fruit that they're basically saying, here, connect with me. Like,
right.
Please connect with me. Make me feel like a human being, not a transaction. And, dude, I think what you just laid out is actually brilliant. And I'm hoping every attorney listening today heard that. Because if you just implemented that exact dude, it's not cheesy at all. You got a folder with your this is your target you're going after. It's not manipulative. This is how you do it. This is how you, and the reality is, let me ask you, Shane, when you have those bios and you start to have these conversations, did it make you in that Chiro connect better?
Oh, yes, so much better. Yeah. I mean, and it was, because one, they're like, a lot of times I'd get like, how do you know this? I'm like, dude, it's on your bio, right? Yeah. And but it tells them I bothered to read it.
Yeah.
So I was prepared for the lunch. I was genuinely interested in them because I took the time to read the bio and then to talk about it, and it allows you to skip some of those connection points super fast.
Yeah.
And then, when it talks about their hobbies and stuff, dude, you just ask them questions about that, right? And be a little curious about it and ask them. And then they get to talking about their favorite things. So you're not just talking about business, you're talking about themselves.
Yep.
And it's much better than just oh, tell me where you were born. Tell me, you got any wife and
Right.
kids. All that is just surface garbage. I mean, it's not surface garbage, but everybody asks that stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require anybody to think, oh, I got a wife, I've been married 25 years, and I got 2 kids, they're in college. Okay, great. I tell a gazillion people that. But
Yeah,
if
that
you ask-
that doesn't connect you to them.
right, because yeah.
Yeah, and I think the key what your strategy did, and folks, listen, this isn't something that didn't help Shane grow his firm to where it's at today. These are the key things. This is why I said today's conversation is a powerful one at the beginning of today's show. But what that did is it allowed you to literally operate in the top 1% of any attorney out there. Guaranteed. What you just laid out there, if you would just do that, if you would just do a little pre-research, and now you have no excuse, right? Shane, back when you began, like social media wasn't as prevalent as
No, there was no. I don't want to say there was no social media, but there wasn't a lot of social media out there.
It was the baby, probably Facebook, maybe.
Maybe, I don't even know. I mean, we didn't even go to it. We just went to. Everybody had a website, and that was it.
That was the big thing. And now a lot of people, they still have a website. Obviously, I don't know any attorney that really doesn't have a website, but you're going to have it. But you've got social media, right? So if you really want to like up your game and be like super crazy, you might go to their Facebook page and look them up, and then maybe look at there's pictures of them and their son playing soccer, playing whatever. Okay, cool. Let's note that in the folder. Let's note that here. And the reality is you should be talking to so many people that your memory cannot remember. Unless you're like a photographic memory ninja, and we'll assume that you're not that, you won't remember all these details about all the people you're talking to and talking with these referral partners. And so you've got an unlimited amount of resource, and it will take you all of 5 minutes to prep yourself.
And right after the meetings, right, I would sit in my car, shake hands, hey, talk together. I'd go to I'd go to my car and I would make a couple of notes, right, like your dentist does. All these high level, they talk about what you talked about. I would update the stuff, and I went back to my office. I'd give it to my admin to put in the system, right, to put in the file for that doctor, so that when we went to lunch again or did something else, I could pull it up and I knew even more about them, right? Or it's a great thing to do is you've got your notes, you know what you talked about, right? And I'm into fitness, Trevor. I was into fitness back then. So it always came up during a conversation, right? It's like, what kind of workout you're doing or whatever. And so one of my follow-up letters after the meeting would just be, hey, you asked me about my fitness routine. I just want to let you know, here's what it is, blah, blah, blah. And it gave me some reason to contact them afterwards, because I'd be like, oh, I told you I'd send you something, or I told you I'd get you some info on it. Boom, just another touch point connection. Or in that follow-up sequence, sometimes I would send some books, right? Or send a little quote or an article or something, just any reason really, and genuine reason to connect, right? I'm not sending a garbage article, but
I think that's the key. And what you're not sending them is, hey, send me leads. Hey, send me people. Hey, send me people. Right? Because that won't work. You're now a used car salesman. You're genuinely connected. You find out the information about them, the personal connection. You actually genuinely connect with them through this information, and then you follow up with relevant information. This seems so basic, but I'm telling you right now how many people I experienced that try to create referral partners with me that screw this up.
Yeah.
To where I'm just turned off, and I'm just like, dude, I'm done. I'm not, and I don't respond. I don't, and you wonder why, hey, I met this person and I didn't hear anything back. Might consider it's because you're showing up as an asshole.
Yeah.
Right. And I consider an asshole somebody who just shows up and just wants something from me. Right. Even though I think they might be able to help me possibly if we got down the road, I'm like, it's not worth it. Because I just feel like you're kind of a little slimy. You're a little slimy coming after me that way. And I know I've done that to other people. I mean, plenty. I mean, we're not going to go that long on the podcast, but I could share story after story where I've been the sleazy little asshole.
Well, and most of us are, right?
For sure.
And I think one is are you offering nothing, right? And
Yep.
just, hey, send me your business, right? And like even in the beginning, I was like, send me your business, but send me. I'm like, of course, I'd love the great cases. That's what I would tell people. Like, look, I'd love the great cases, but I know you got a bunch of people who want those. Send me the stuff everybody's dropping. Send me the stuff
Yeah.
nobody wants, and let me see if I can turn it into something.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do enough of that, then it's not that they just assume, oh, you're only the crappy case guy. No, you're the guy who actually helped me. Right? You fix this, and there's going to be some good stuff in there, and then you can turn it. Right? But I was doing something for them. I was being of service to them and their patients,
Yep.
and cleaning the books on difficult stuff. So those are two key things right there.
Let me ask you this, Shane, because now we've basically spoke what you did at the beginning. So does that mean now that you have, and those of you who have not been listening to a lot of the shows don't understand the size of Shane Smith Law? It's not a small firm, right? Multiple states, lots of employees, lots of attorneys. So you don't do referrals anymore, right? Because now you're running ads. You don't
That
deal with
would not be
referrals
correct.
anymore. Oh, wait. So you mean you keep doing the thing that you did at the beginning, but maybe slightly different because you're not now doing it, right? We have a team that can control
I was
this.
gonna say we've got somebody in house who works on creating our referrals with doctors and lawyers and things like that. We've got one or two people in house who work on all the communication type stuff. They also will work on if we get relationships with other law firms. They work on that, and the chiropractors as well, right? So yes, I've got some people do it. I generally don't do lunch a lot of times anymore. A lot of times I'll do coffee because it's a little shorter timeline for me, right? It's 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can bleed over a little longer, but it's more defined. A lot of times I'll meet in my office now, whereas in the beginning I was going out to actually lunch, right?
Yep.
And part of it is because
Or going to their office, right?
Right.
Because at that time you were the one that was kind of the subordinate in the relationship.
I was, yeah.
Right? You're like the one that now it's flipped. It's like now you've built it up. But I think the point I wanted to make when asking you that was what you just said, which was, yes, you keep doing it. And there's systems and routines in place now to make sure that continues, which means referrals and figuring this game out, they're not just something you try for a minute and get you to a certain point and then you don't do it anymore. You actually amplify it. Like I've had plenty of conversations with your team that does this, and this is full-time people working 40 to 50 hours a week that are doing nothing but referral. So if that's true, it must mean it works.
Right, it definitely works, and that's why I said sometimes a law firm, especially when you're small, you can pick, right? Am I going to go solely to the ad base, right? Or some kind of marketing, or am I going to work on referrals? And it's a decision, but it's not an either or. You can do both, right? And I know some successful firms that don't do any advertising. They call it no advertising, but it's all referral based. But they advertise to their referral partners.
Yep.
I mean,
they may not be running, meta ads or ads on LinkedIn, but yeah, they're definitely advertising.
Yeah, they are. And that's sort of a conversation for another podcast to get down in the weeds on all the things they do to advertise to their clients, which their clients are other law firms.
Yep.
Right. But one thing I do want to say is the biggest error I see in small firms in this issue is the feast and famine of working on their referral network.
Yeah.
And what I see there is they got no business, so they do a whole bunch of it, right? You look up and they're trying to go to lunch every day with somebody else.
Yep.
And then suddenly they're trying to do breakfast too, right? And then they get business, and then they go to they don't work on any referral stuff whatsoever. They don't have any follow-up. They don't do any lunches. They don't do anything to grow or even stay in touch with their current referral partners, right? Which is an issue we should talk about. But so then they got nothing. Then they look up and they've got no work and they got to start over. And then they're popping in with the guy they haven't even had any touch with for a year. Like, hey, you quit sending me business. Well, okay, come on, dude. That seems a little parasitic at that point too, right? Like you didn't care about me, you just wanted the business. But so there's been no follow-up, but they also didn't do anything to grow their network. And that's why I say when I was busy doing this, I had a target. I wanted to go to lunch with, I think it was I wanted to have 4 meetings a week, right? 2 coffees and 2 lunches. And I usually did it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's what I would do. And my admin knew my expectation was I had 2 coffees and 2 lunches every week.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have 2 coffees and 2 lunches scheduled, why in the world did we not? Right? That was an issue to her, is like, what's going on? How did you not forecast this? How did you not know this was a problem? So I could do something else, right? Go to a chamber event, go to a thing. And that was my target, and that was the expectation. No matter hell or high water, whatever was going on, I was going to do these. And I think it's much better to just set a lower target and consistently do it than to do this feast and famine, up and down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's 100%. The way to chaos.
Oh yeah. Well, I think the key too here is also realizing referral. And we've talked about this in some other shows with different ideas, different things that we're doing, but this is a longer term play. If you're trying to get this referral to fix your bottom line in the next 2 weeks, well, that's not going to happen. So just understand that this is going to feed the demon or the dragon 6 months from now. So when you build these relationships, and the nice part is when you can realize and understand that not only are you building these relationships for 6 months from now, but it could also build them for the next 6 years or 60 years. So it's the time, but when you're just starting out or you're just really starting to take it serious to where you're going to be consistent and you're going to keep going after this game, realizing that this is a long-term play. Yeah. But when you decided to start your firm, this wasn't a short, quick fix. You're not invested in cryptocurrency. Right? Like this, you're not trying to get rich tomorrow. That's not going to happen. But if you continue to do the process, I love referrals. Today's show and next week's show, these two, we could probably break up. We probably will. I think that's actually a good idea after we finish the 10-week campaign that we're on right now on kind of all the nuts and bolts. But this could be its own little series of exactly how to do it. One thing I want to make super clear as we kind of wrap today is there is a process to follow. There are strategies and techniques that they're not theory, they're actual tactical application that you've used, Shane, to build Shane Smith Law. And we can try to go reinvent the wheel, or you can just do what someone else has already done that works in your area, in your sphere, in your area of expertise, etc. And that's it's doing it, but also knowing that there's a right way and a wrong way. There's a way that's more effective and less effective, and there's a pathway that you can actually follow. Right. And this is just the critical part of it is I think action items, keys, takeaways from today is if you're not doing it, do it. What would you recommend for somebody, Shane, who's just either maybe they've been in business for a while or they're just beginning? How do they get started to making this a consistent part of the habits of their firm today? What can they do?
I think the main thing is assuming you have an admin, right? Either a secretary or an admin or anybody in your firm or your spouse, right? And say, hey, I need to work on this. I need 1 meeting a week on my calendar. And if you're in the beginning and you're the subordinate in that relationship where you're out and you're taking somebody to lunch. If you're the superior in that relationship or the stronger person, I need 1 coffee in my office, but a target of 1 per week every single time.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of value in telling them, hey, at least every 6 months I need to revisit anybody who sent me any business, right? Mm-hmm. At least, but those 2 things, right? Have a target, 1 new connection every week. And then every 6 months, if we are partners, let's do a touch-in, either a phone call or a coffee or something like that.
What would be your advice on how to find that touch point, that person, that referral partner? What are some things that they can do?
One is, have you had any business relationships with anybody in the past, right? Like I left one firm and went to another firm, or I left one firm and started my firm.
Right.
So I had a list of every chiro I'd ever did any business with, and I just sent a letter, right? That was my intro, like, hey, I'm doing my own thing. But all of us have a list, and if you don't have a list, go to the chamber. It's basically free. Or B&I is another group, right? Mm-hmm. B&I is another big business group. They're all over the place. They're pretty cheap too, and you're going to get some forced interaction there. Those 2 things, if you're in the bar, just start going to, go to some lawyers, right? And in your space. And I don't think there's anything wrong if I'm a bankruptcy lawyer and I go to a bar meeting for other bankruptcy lawyers, say, hey, who do you do some business with, right? Or like in the personal injury space, who are some of the chiropractors you like? And then they just start going. But I've also done it just totally cold. I drove down the street, saw a chiropractor in a big fancy chiropractor's office. I thought, dude, they're banging. So I went back to my office. I looked him up. I called the doc and said, hey, man, I work at so-and-so. I saw your sign. You guys look like you're doing a ton of business. I love to meet with successful doctors. Can we do lunch? It was simple and easy. You can do that with Google. I mean, I've found them. Just Google any people in your area who you think could send you business and say, hey, I saw you online. I saw your reviews, and be genuine. If the reviews all suck, probably don't call them. But I mean, assuming they're
Saw your reviews, you're an asshole. So
we should probably talk, right? Because I'm an asshole too.
we're both assholes.
And just call them and say, let's go to lunch. And if that's your method, if you're doing it stone cold, just know it's going to take a little longer, and know it may be harder to do it. Right? You may invite a couple people. Don't take that rejection personally.
No.
And just get your admin doing it and call. And one of my best relationships with another lawyer, not in my specialty, was I Googled the dude and I just said, hey, you're doing great. I want to send you some of this work I don't do. And it turned into a multi-year relationship that, is worth several $100,000 in my pocket, right? And on stuff I couldn't help anybody with just because I Googled and reached out cold.
Yeah.
And generally you call and you're talking to the doctor, or you talk to the reception, or usually you're talking to the doctor or the lawyer, right? On these smaller little things, and they just punch you over there and just say, hey, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to go to coffee or do lunch. And coffee obviously is a smaller commitment than a lunch, right? So it's 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's simple. I'm glad you brought up the cold lead, right? Because I was going to make sure, if you didn't go there, I was going to go there real quick, because I want to make sure everybody realizes, if you don't have, because we talked last week about the list, if you don't have a great big list, or you've exhausted the list and you're still going to follow the protocol Shane's talking about of hit that one contact a week, there's no excuse not to do it, other than you are either too afraid or you just, I don't know what it is, because there are plenty of cold contacts that you can make constantly. Guerrilla marketing is a term that's constantly referred to as this type of thing, right? Even though social media is here, even though you got LinkedIn, even though there's all those other ways, guerrilla marketing still works. Taking yourself and going and doing it.
And this is one of the things we're not going to go into today, but spending time identifying who your relationship partners are going to be.
Yeah.
Right. Like there are certain doctors I'd much rather go to lunch with than other kind of doctors. Right. And I can get a feel for that based on their website, because I know what sort of their area is. That doesn't mean I would never go to lunch with one of the others, but they're not a top tier referral prospect. Right. And
they're not the hot girl at the bar in the red dress.
No, it could turn into something, but it's probably not.
Yeah, they're not that. They're all right. Maybe this is something here,
but but I mean, like I say, cold outreach, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And
no. In fact, I think it should be part of it. I think it should be a requirement, because it actually sharpens your tools. It makes you nervous. It makes your tummy tingle when you're going to knock on the door or go to that first meeting. So I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a negative side to doing cold outreach at all. Like, there's nothing about it that's negative. There's only positive. Even if you don't get a relationship with the person, the growth you have to grow your firm and just who you are.
And that's key. You're not going to get every one of these is not going to be a win, right?
No.
I mean, every one of these is not. If you're doing the cold outreach, you may call 5 or 10 people and you may only get 2 lunches. Cool. Okay. You got 2 lunches. Every lunch is not going to turn into a relationship either, but maybe 1 out of 5 is. Well, you don't need a ton of people that are high value referral partners to transform your practice. I met a guy one time. He was in the middle of nowhere. He's like, dude, nobody ever reaches out to me because I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, well, cool. Let's do lunch. I'll drive to you. I drove 2 hours to see this guy. Blocked off it was basically the day. It killed the day. But I saw his practice. We went to lunch, talked all about him. Next thing you know, I was probably getting 5 or 6 clients every 2 months, right? Which to a small guy was huge. I got another guy, small town. We had a great relationship for years. The relationship only didn't work out in business because his niece became a lawyer doing personal injury work. Well, of course he's going to send business to his niece. I don't fault the guy at all. And he called me and he goes, hey, here's what it is. She passed the bar, dude. I gotta I got to feed her. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. But that was years. And he sent me tons of clients because I did great work, on those cases, but it was wonderful for me. I mean, and so like two good relationships can transform your practice. You don't need a ton to win.
No.
Kind of like you only need one spouse, right?
Yeah. Thankfully, I'm grateful.
You know?
I'm grateful for that. I am grateful for that.
Yeah,
That was great, Shane. All right. Well, on that note, we've gone a little longer today, and I think and this is why it's becoming very evidently clear we need to deep dive into some of these topics, because I think we can really help peel back some of the layers of the beliefs that are like the false beliefs that you currently carry inside the referral base. So we'll do that at some point here inside of the show. If you got value from today's show, please share the show with somebody else. That will help us grow and help our word and what we're doing here get out. We're trying to help and give back. We've had some success in our own right in building what we've built, and we want to be able to help you do the same thing and avoid the pitfalls that are coming your way. Next week, you're going to really want to tune in, because next week we dive into advertising and ads, right? This is the conversation everybody really wants to have. Because a lot of people think this is their only problem. Unfortunately, that's not true, but it's a fun conversation. So tune in next week, and we're going to dive into ads. I'm confident we will do another series on that as well, where we break that all up and spend a lot of time there, because there are about 1 billion nuances that come into that inside of this whole series. But remember, if you're just tuning into this episode, go back. This is episode number 6 of the 10-part series on basically starting a firm from scratch and all the intricate parts that need to be involved inside of doing that.
The only thing I want to add is if there's anything we talk about where you specifically know you'd love to know more information on, put that down in the comments. We'll try to roll it in when we're doing some of these expanded episodes, and we'll be glad to talk about it in full. Or you can reach out to Trevor and have a real conversation.
Yeah, that's perfect. And yeah, in the comments, or head over to our website, legaledgecoaching.com. We do have some free training on there. We dive into some of the foundational things that makes up being a business owner. And then we have a cool training that's out on there right now. I don't know how long it'll be there, but it's on intake. Again, another subject we love talking about. It's making money, right? So it's bringing the cash flow in. So head over again. That's legaledgecoaching.com, where you can get access to the free training there. And then also on that website, if you want to get into a conversation with us one-on-one, right now, I don't know how long we'll be doing this, but right now we are running an exclusive opportunity for a one-on-one mentorship, where we will literally take you in and we'll work with you and your team, and we'll actually dissect what you're doing and help you grow from where you're at to a 10-figure plus firm, literally hands-on. So this is a very intimate, this is not group coaching, anything like that. This is literally Shane and I working with you. You're working with the rest of the team, saying, hey, what do I need to do? How do I implement some of the things that we're talking about here on this show, plus about 10,000 levels deeper than that?
I was going to say, that's an 8-figure firm, 10 million in revenue. That's the target. I think Trevor said 10 figures, which would be like a whole lot of money.
Oh, did I say 10 figures? Oh,
yeah,
shit.
I was going to say,
Well,
that would be pretty impressive.
Let's do that. Why not? Why stop at 8 figures? You know what?
You're right. Let's just roll right up to $1 trillion law firms, right?
Let's go. Well, I don't know that we could say we've done that, but
I was going to say that's
we'll try to do it with you. That's what it'll be. We'll do it with you right beside you. So good correction on that one, because that is definitely a different figure. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys being listeners to the show. That's all we got for you today. Tune in next week for advertising. We're out of here.